Alright, hey everybody. Been a minute since my last vid. I know I've got a lot of things to cover on like Dead by Daylight and stuff, but I wanted to do a follow-up video on my previous Yagorath vid. And basically what I'm calling this is for now, my final thoughts on Yagorath in her current position in Paladins. So, to explain my points on what I feel is up with Yagorath, I need to show a couple of things. First off, when she goes into planted form, as you can see, she does a fairly good bit of damage. Pretty good for a frontline champion, which is good for her because she doesn't have very much in the way of defensive skills. She's only got one, and it's, well, two if you count acceleration, but it's just DR. It's not a shield or anything like that, and it doesn't give you any properties except stun immunity. Now, pay attention to my camera. My controller's kind of fucked up, but okay, look how fast I'm going. Now watch this. As you can see, when Yagorath fires, she has she reduces your sensitivity. Now this on PC was removed due to feedback, but apparently on console we still got it because of either an oversight or a bug. I'm not really sure which. Secondly, Yagorath has a couple of bugs that we need to address. One of her cards, I forget what it's called. Hang on, let me see if I can, maybe if I can find it real quick. Towering Presence is bugged. This card will have the level 1 values no matter how many points you put into it. Don't use it right now. It might be an okay card. I probably wouldn't use it regardless, to be honest with you. But, speaking of Yagorath's ultimate, let's take a look, shall we? I want to show you something I need to talk that I feel needs to be talked about. Okay, so. Oh, hang on.
Our prey lurks on the flank. Oh, this realm will be
okay. Never mind, I guess that's not gonna work. Okay, so this is Yagorath's ultimate. She pulls the guy in, does a wind up, and then and she eats the guy if she makes it to the end. Now, while she's doing this, she switches to a health bar, 4,000 health, which is not the same as her normal health bar. If she runs out of this health, she goes into a stagger animation. During this stagger animation, you are very vulnerable because not only can you not move or use abilities, you also cannot be healed during this. That's something I found out the hard way, and I think it's not a good... I don't think it should be like that, but that is the way it is. So, the nice things about Yagorath is she can move around pretty quickly once she gets going. But, here's the biggest problems with Yag. I wanted to demonstrate this, but unfortunately I couldn't find anyone to help me with this at the moment. But basically, as you can see, when she stance swaps, pretty quick. But then, watch this. I'm going to hold forward as I do this. Yeah. Now, look how long it took her to get going. Now, the thing about this that you may not know, although I'm sure most of you do if you've played Yagorath in any capacity, whenever she's in this form, she does not have the 40% damage reduction that she has in this form, which is the only thing really keeping her alive. So as you can imagine, that delay right there is very, very troublesome. But it's usually alleviated by this, acceleration, which will help you zoom away and get away from the things that are going to hurt you. The thing is, though, if you're crippled while you're in ball form, you cannot use acceleration. And I find that's kind of misleading. They said she was immune to most forms of crowd control, but that's not at all true. Now that I think about, when I've really thought about it, and after playing her a bunch, the only crowd control she's kind of immune to is displacement abilities. And even then, Atlas can't rewind Yagorath normally, but he can rewind her when she's in ball form for whatever reason. because cripples and stuns act like normal. Polymorphs, even though she cannot be polymorphed, but she gets a long stun in exchange. She's also got, roots, they work the same as ever. Like I said, cripples prevent her from using acceleration, so it doesn't really matter that she can swap stances when she still can't use her skill to get out, especially when it comes to Tyra Burn Monster. Oh, hold on. That's going to be annoying to listen to. Accidentally rolled over it. Anyway. And, yeah. And plus banishments and stuff like that, those all still work. And, yeah, so, I mean, there's really no CC she's truly immune to except for displacement. And even then, it's a bit of a stretch. It's a useful bit of... But I just wanted to point out, I don't think it's very genuine to say that she's immune to most forms of crowd control when that's not at all the case. She's immune to displacement, and that's pretty much it. That's not most forms of crowd control. That's a small fraction of crowd control abilities. So, what are my thoughts on Yag? I went over all her abilities and stuff before. And, you know, she's got some useful things in her kit, like the sonar, which people don't utilize as much as they should. It's actually very useful, especially when you're fighting against Maves. Mave ults, you turn into the ball and you do that so your team can see where the enemies are at nearby, and you can see them. So it weakens Mave's ult considerably. And it's also good for tracking down enemies who are trying to run away, or trying to bring attention to an enemy that's nearby but your teammates may not know he's there. Or give your teammates the advantage in a gunfight, you know, there's a few things. And if you combine that with her talent on sight begets strength, then you'll also be giving your teammates shield and movement speed, so that's also pretty cool. So I've played Yagorath until I've got her, hang on, can I show you? No, I can't show you my level on her. I got her level 38, so I have played a lot of Yag over the last week. And she is a lot of fun when it comes, sometimes. The thing is, though, this champion has the single most amount of counters of any champion in the entire game. Execute ults, stun talents, execute talents. Certain characters in general all counter her very, very hard. The biggest offenders being Tyra, Dredge, and Willow. Dredge just does so much damage that even with her DR, sitting in his bombs is not really a viable option. And she will eat a lot of damage from him no matter what she does if he drops bombs on her. Because if you turn into her ball form at the wrong time, you're going to be eating significantly more damage, even if you get away. Willow, the dead zone. Really, really powerful against Yag, because if she's not able to get healed by her healer, she dies very quickly, and if she's forced to move, she loses her DR, and it makes her vulnerable. It's a lose-lose situation for her. Tyra completely counters her fully if she uses the talent Burn Monster. Not only is Yagorath forced to move away from the flames, but she can't use her acceleration to get out of it, which means she has two options. She can go into her defensive stance and try to bear the damage, but if Tyra decides to use all of her abilities, she can multiply the damage Yagorath takes significantly, and odds are you will die no matter what. And if you try to transform and roll away, you will lose your DR, making the fire do way more damage than it was already doing, and kill you even faster. And if someone's shooting at you, you're 100% dead. So Tyra basically makes this champion almost unplayable because her firebomb is just not very well designed, in my opinion. Dredge is also kind of a cheese against her, but it's not the be-all end-all. And Willow's dead zone is almost as bad as Tyra fire. The only difference is Yagorath can actually run away from it, but the problem is Willow has that dead zone up so often that it's just a really hard thing to deal with, especially if the team is focusing Yagorath, which they will. When Yagorath isn't being killed, but isn't being full countered by one of her many counter picks, she feels pretty strong. She can take quite a bit of damage. She does decent damage. Her controls are a tad clunky, and as I mentioned, the control with the sensitivity thing, that there's still some things that need to be adjusted. But she can be quite fun if you have a good team comp and your teammates are helping you out, and you're playing a mobile Yag because you cannot play sit on point Yag. You can try doing it with unnatural persistence and making a loadout where you can hunker down more. But honestly, it's not very... I don't think it's going to be very good, just because her counter picks utterly shred through her regardless. So, I don't think this champion will be too strong at the moment. The good news is she has so many counters that the devs can afford to probably make some buffs for her without risking her being overpowered, because she has so many counter picks that just the fact that she... just the sheer number of her picks means that she almost always has at least one counter pick. Like, I can't even list off all the champions that counter her right now, but there's a lot of them. And some of them counter her more than others, obviously. So that's a... So I don't think she's overpowered, and she's not as weak as I originally assumed. You have to play her in a very mobile playstyle if you want her to be good. But she can do a lot of damage. She can do pretty good at flanking and taking out certain targets or helping your teammates and whatnot. She's also pretty good at sumo wrestling the other tanks for taking the point. She can win 1v1s against most tanks. Some of the tanks are a bit of a problem for her, like Rom, for instance, is a bit of an issue for her. Though he's also very vulnerable to her ultimate. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, her ultimate. It's probably one of the weakest ults in this entire game, because if the person is by themselves, depending on what character they are, because if it's a Dredge, Dredge can still use his broadside while he's being grabbed by your ult. Even for some reason, I don't know why they allow him to do that. Even though even though yes, it is an alternative fire mode, it is not like Moji or BK where his alternative fire is required to do damage. His projectiles do damage regardless. Anyway, you can get shot at by the person you're grabbing, and if they have teammates helping them, and if they're a high DPS champion on the enemy team, you're never going to get that ult off. And it's going to probably get you killed more often than not. Because, like I said, once you're in that stun animation, you're stuck for a good bit, and you're also unable to be healed by your healer, which I don't understand why that's a thing. On the other hand, they can't really buff the ultimate, because the way it works, it's a kill if it succeeds, so they have to make it somewhat easy to counter. Otherwise, it could be overpowered. So I really don't think the ultimate was very well designed. It was cool for the theme of the character, with her being the Great Devourer and all that. But they definitely were not thinking of the balance implications too much on trying to make it very good, because they just wanted to make it fun, interesting, and entertaining. And that's kind of the problem. It's kind of a gimmick ult. You can sometimes get some use out of it. The main use you'll get out of Yagorath's ultimate is two things. One, ulting someone who's trying to get away or is in a vulnerable state where they can't possibly break out of it. Or B, use it defensively. Like, say you hear a Drogo's ultimate going, and you don't have your acceleration up to run away from him before he flies at you and punches you and one-shot kills you. Another thing you can do is, if there's someone else nearby, you can Yagorath ultimate them, and then when Drogo's punches you, he'll kill your health bar and make you lose your ultimate. And knock you out of your ultimate, but not only will you gain half your charge back, you won't die, because that health bar is not your main health bar. So it's a bit of a defensive way to play against Drogo's ult. It's kind of gimmicky, and it doesn't usually work out that way. You usually just want to make sure your accelerate is up for when you need to get the hell out of dodge. Other than that, I think that, in my opinion, the devs need to do a couple of things with Yagorath just for some slight polishes. I don't think they should make any major changes to her yet, because we don't know where she's going to sit in the meta. It's going to take a little bit for her to adjust, and not to mention, we'll also have to see if they decide to change any of the characters that counter her, like Tyra. I feel like Tyra has been a bit of a plague on the game for a long time, and I think she deserves to be changed or nerfed or whatever they need to do to make her more fair and balanced to go against. But, what I think the devs need to do, as you can see, there's a 4-second cooldown when you turn into ball form. I don't know why that's there. That should not be there. I think they should remove that cooldown. I think it should be just free swap whenever you want. Because one, there's already a downside to going into ball form, and the cooldown doesn't even apply to that. I think because you lose your DR, so you're extremely vulnerable. You can't do pretty much hardly any damage, because all you have for attacks are these acid sprays behind you, which don't do much damage, or accelerate, which only does 500 damage when you run into someone. Not a whole ton. It's okay damage, but it's definitely not great. So I think that's something they should do. Secondly, they need to fix this. This isn't even a balance change. This is a queue. This is a quality change. The fact that she can't access her full stuff, her full range of sensitivity, just because, is a huge thing. It makes it very clunky to control her and try to hit fast-moving targets, and it's just a pain in the ass. I really hope they fix that soon. And then thirdly, one of two things. Either A, increase the range of the spit, because the spit's range, I mean, as you can see, it didn't even leave a puddle there. It's not all that long. Yagorath has a pretty short range, and it makes it hard for her to poke. Now, she does have longer range with these, the spikes. Although the spikes don't even reach that distance. But, I mean, if you look at the spikes, they only do 170 damage. Like, who is this going to kill? Both spikes only count as one projectile, so you can't hit both spikes or whatever to do multiple damage, but I think they should increase the spike damage if they're not going to increase the spit range. Heck, they could probably get away with both, honestly. Just to make it to where Yagorath has a bit better poke, and make it to where she can do a bit more damage without having to roll right up in someone's face and risk getting melted all the time. Because, especially if they're not going to remove the cooldown off the stance swap, because it's kind of clunky to get around without it when it's on cooldown. Other than that, I would just let her sit and wait and see where she ends up. So far, it doesn't look like she's overpowered. I think she's leaning towards the underpowered side, which is why I suggested these changes, but these are more quality of life. Just to be on the cautious end, I think these are safe buffs to give her without breaking her, but making her feel better to play. Because already not very many people are playing Yagorath because she doesn't feel good to play when her counters are on the field, and she also has clunk in her base kit in general. So that's all I can really say about her right now. And I just wanted to bring this little video to basically bring you my conclusion from all my playtime as to where I think Yagorath currently sits in the game. I don't think she's the worst champion in the game. I don't think she's going to be meta by any means, because she has too many easy pick counters, and she's also a bit clunky. But I think if they just made some adjustments, or nerfed the characters like Tyra, who are hard countering her into oblivion, then she would be okay. And I think she would fit into the game pretty well. But that only time will really tell. This is still, of course, early impressions. She hasn't been out for very long, but I do have quite a bit of time into her. I've played against just about every team comp you can imagine. I've played with just about every set of teammates you can imagine. And this is basically my conclusion. I think she has potential to be good, but she has too many things blocking her from being good because she's not strong enough to break through her weaknesses like some other champions. Like Rom, when you play into his counters, the biggest one, unless you're playing like Grip Genos, Rom can usually deal with his counters without too much issue because he has options and ways to defend himself. And Yagorath's counters kind of disable her ability to fight back, and that's kind of her problem. But we'll have to wait and see what they do with her. Other than that, the only real critique I would get is that her gold skin, I can't really show it because I don't have it yet. Her gold skin has the same acid color as the base skin, and I really feel like they should change that acid to like a purple color or like a yellowish gold color, because it would look really cool having purple acid or having like molten gold looking acid spitting out at you. That would be really fun, and it would look awesome. But yeah, I appreciate you all coming out to watch my Yagorath final impressions for now vid. If any changes come to Yagorath or anything, or if I find out anything, I might make another video talking about her. Or if you guys want to see a different video, whether it's like a champion guide, or if you want to see, or if you want like a discussion topic about something else, please let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, once again, I appreciate you all coming out. I hope this was somewhat insightful and got you thinking about your opinions on Yag yourself. And I encourage you to try her out and see what you think of her. Anyway, I hope you all have a very good evening. Happy Valentine's Day, and I'll see you all later.